In April 2025, a startup called Cluely caused massive debate and some real controversy with, shall we call it, a very provocative statement. We want to cheat on everything. And the founders of this company had used this AI tool to cheat and get offers for some of the most prestigious companies in the entire world. This marketing slogan and approach has caused a massive amount of debate. The discussion is centered on many people's real fears when it comes to AI. That makes us all lazy, that people don't want to develop and improve, and that their output is often subpar because it's straight from ChatGPT. Many people argue the exact opposite, but what this startup has really done is bring to the fore the discussion that has to take place, which is what constitutes cheating in an AI-driven world. We're going to explore exactly this topic in today's episode. This is In the Loop with Jack Horton. I hope you enjoyed the show. So this has been a topic that's kind of gone viral online, because in early 2025, a couple of months ago, a 21-year-old named Roy Lee raised just over $5 million for his company Cluely. Now, leading up to this, Lee had gone completely viral online. Many people probably you'd have seen it on TikTok or LinkedIn or wherever it might be, because he actually got suspended from Columbia University for what he described really was cheating on tech interviews. Now, Lee and his co-founder had built an AI tool which made it really easy to pass technology companies' interview processes for internships. So specifically the leak code assessments, which is a very common technical assessment in technology industry interviews to kind of assess people's competence levels. Now, it's important to say that Lee did claim that he actually went through the handbook, the student handbook, very carefully and proved that actually this didn't violate any policies. But either way, he wanted to try and show the world that you could use an AI tool like his to get offers from the best firms in the world. And he just wanted to see what would happen and ride the shock factor. And obviously the approach worked well because, not only did he receive offers from Meta, TikTok, Capital One, Amazon, he even recorded the Amazon interview and published it online, which caused even more outrage. And that's what led to him being suspended from Columbia University, because Amazon put a lot of pressure on them to take disciplinary action. Regardless, he's doubled down on that approach of virality and controversy. He actually announced the company with a product video and a manifesto titled, "We Want to Cheat on Everything." And the ad was him in the video wearing some kind of AR glasses that, although it wasn't actually an AR product, what they're selling, presented him in a romantic relationship on a date. And this person said, "What's your favorite wine?" And in the ad, the assistant basically helped him as the user to be this wine connoisseur and lie about his age and experience when it comes to wine. And the tagline was, "Invisible AI to cheat on anything." And it now has 10 million views. Now, the actual product itself, the way it works is that it listens to audio and essentially feeds you information real time when you're on a laptop. So it'll pop up and give you the answer to something. Exactly as you can imagine being used in job interviews, sales calls, or maybe even exams or lectures. Now, Cluely's stance and I guess marketing narrative that it's promoted in the world has obviously triggered what could be definitely called a very fundamental clash of values. Because the backlash hasn't just been about the product, but about this kind of competing vision about what technology should do in the world and how it should work with humans. And really, I think you can probably bucket all the different criticisms into three separate buckets. You got one which is kind of the authenticity argument against it. You got one which is this argument on the importance of human development. And the third is, I guess, more of a societal impact assessment. And each one of those represents, I guess, different concerns that people typically have, not just with this tool, but actually AI's role in humanity and society over the next period to come. So let's dig into those. So some of the most angry reactions online have been all about dishonesty. Because actually their value proposition to the world is that you can cheat and lie, which is really just all about enabling people to, I guess, misrepresent their actual capabilities or knowledge. And I think this objection really hinges on a distinction between tools that, let's say, enhance your capability versus those that just simulate it. So a good example, while calculators might extend say, your ability to do maths, or importantly, your mathematical reasoning abilities, you could definitely argue that Cluley's proposition to the world is just about fundamentally misrepresenting the user's actual understanding of a topic. The second criticism is all about human potential and development. Many people argue that humans develop new skills through struggling in real life situations and therefore learning. So this viewpoint hinges on this idea that by removing this friction of not knowing something and struggling at a thing, AI actually therefore might remove the opportunity to learn a new thing. So this argument really believes in this idea of durable skills, so creative thinking or ethical judgment being super important in the world, and something that AI shouldn't try and replicate, because otherwise why would we need humans? And it reflects a particular, vision of technology, which is not as a replacement of, say, human struggle and people, but as an enabler of people to overcome challenges. The third and final criticism has been centered on discussing what it means for society if we adopt, cheating technology, and what that will do to collective ability and trust in society. For example, let's say that candidates and students are just assumed to be cheating on AI all the time, and that's what recruiters or educators or wherever it might be just have to assume no matter what. And it makes it therefore very difficult to trust a CV or a proposal or whatever it might be. Because when everybody is doing it, people stop reporting cheating, which is, to be honest, just a recipe for widespread cynicism. And therefore, this argument ultimately is all based on this idea that when individuals cheat and don't care about, say, development of themselves or society or others, this idea of collective intelligence and consciousness collapses. Now, before I provide my own personal take on all this, I think Lee's responses to his critics is worth touching on, because he actually reframed the debate around the idea of technological progress itself. So he argued that every meaningful technology has been met with this moral panic, from the printing press to VR, and really the history of innovation is just the history of redefining what's socially acceptable. He made comparisons to, say, food delivery services and applications, or childcare outsourcing, and really took a bit of a libertarian perspective on it all, where the market adoption alone validates its value. So really what he did here is actually position any critic as a technological conservative resisting this inevitable change, and attempted to, shift the conversations from ethics to adoption. Now, when it comes to my view on this, I think, as always, it's easy to forget that all these problems exist with or without this company. This company, back to a previous episode where I discussed the Shopify CEO's memo saying you're not allowed to hire people unless you prove AI can't do this first. I think all that's happened here is that they've said the inside bit, the thing that they've been thinking about already, out loud. Because really all these arguments, both for and against this, are correct. And although I'm not always a fan of, controversial messages, I am a massive fan of somebody managing to pull off such a viral stunt. It's not easy starting a company and getting momentum and also getting attention. That's a really difficult thing to achieve, so hats off to him. One thing, though, I do think is narratives do matter. Narratives that promote maybe being lazy, to me, are bad. Call me traditional. I think it's important to understand information more than just remember it. I so fundamentally believe in people pushing themselves just to be the best versions of themselves. However, that doesn't mean I do not believe in people working smart, not just really hard. So I want them to use these tools, because I believe that the perception of what these tools should and should not do for me is something that is important. It's not there to make me lazy, it's there to help me progress. And I think fundamentally this will pave the way for a new set of tools that everyday people see even more value in, things that help me get through day-to-day life. But I just hope that people understand the distinction between knowing something and understanding something. Either way, what becomes super clear from this debate is that there's going to be a spectrum of contexts where AI help is going to be more or less acceptable. Because on the one end, you've got sales calls where, to be honest, I think most people wouldn't object to a salesperson having a better real-time answer to my question. Whereas on the other end of that spectrum, I think, like the ad chosen by Cluley, using AI to, say, fake your knowledge in a romantic relationship or any type of relationship, to be honest, I consider this problematic. I think most people do. They probably chose it just to go viral because they know most people would think it's problematic. But I guess it's the middle ground where things get quite complicated. Like, take that coding exam example. Companies use these assessments to evaluate candidates' abilities. But a candidate now using an AI tool is essentially demonstrating how they'd work in practice with an AI tool, which is so commonplace and important in society. So it raises a question about, I guess, the value of learning some skills the hard way versus just using a set of available tools. And you could argue that using the tools in and of themselves is now a key part of that skill. Now, this type of question has been raised before in history, so let's maybe explore a historical example. I have an opportunity to bring some history into it. So as we know, there's been lots of moral panics about new technologies. Every major innovation throughout history has just caused the same outcry about creating lazy people or making people less educated. So when the radio came about, people worried that it would harm children and people and make us less able to read. When calculators emerged, there was literally teachers that did protests, and some schools banned them, thinking that they're not going to be able to preserve mental arithmetic skills. And when the internet made plagiarism easier, more people feared that, Googling things are going to make you stupid. In each case, society eventually adapted. So tools became normalized, new norms emerged, and the panic subsided. And then funny enough, we all have collective amnesia about us going through that process of change. Now, what's really interesting is the things that I think will need to change. So I want to spend a bit of time on this. Now, one of those is going to be education. And there's some really interesting approaches that have been taken so far. So a good example is Edinburgh University actually started to allow students to use AI, but the rule is they have to showcase and cite how they used AI. So since January of 2025, this year, economics students at the University of Edinburgh basically have to attach a one-page prompt appendix to every single assignment. So it shows the exact AI query, the raw response from the LLM, and a short note on what they kept or cut. So another thing that's going to have to change is assessments, and really, really quickly, because as we've just shown, it's very easy to cheat on assessments. So one way of doing this would be for teachers after a written exam, or these days a digital exam on a laptop, to then have a face-to-face exam where you have a conversation with a person, where it's very easy for a knowledgeable expert in that topic to identify and gauge someone's level of understanding really quickly. Yes, it's not 100% accurate, but we're in the era of vibe marketing and vibe coding. This gives a person an understanding of, I guess, how much information they actually understand on the topic versus how able they are to use an AI tool to answer the topic. The market is already starting to respond to these challenges too. So there's investors that are calling for new business models, which are essentially interview centers for, say, startups or other companies to assess people in person, where candidates will not have any access to different tools or AI agents to basically help them get through a process. You will have a human-to-human conversation going on. And you can imagine these appearing at first in every single major city, but eventually being something that pop up everywhere, because there are either startups or smaller businesses everywhere that need to make sure this person really understands what they're talking about. So in conclusion, do we think AI is going to turn us into cheaters and make us incredibly lazy? I guess the answer is not black and white. It never is. Technology has always changed how we work and how we learn, and it always renders some skills completely obsolete while creating demand for others. The calculator didn't make us worse at maths. It actually freed us from silly equations and allowed people to focus on maybe higher level mathematical thinking and actually do that faster. And in the same way, AI might just reduce the need for us to, say, memorize things in the same way or process ideas in the same way. Ultimately, Cluely took a very provocative marketing approach by saying the inside part out loud. And it served its purpose. It's generated huge attention and sparked a lot of important conversations. But the real work now lies ahead. The educators, the employers, the policymakers, us as individuals have to navigate these changes and identify new norms and ways of working. We have to update our understanding of, say, skills or credentials. We have to rethink how teachers assess learning. And we have to develop completely new norms about how we use AI in different contexts. One thing seems very certain, though. Tools like Cluely are not going away. Whether we call it cheating or augmentation, AI help is here to stay. The question isn't whether we accept or reject it, but how we integrate it into our lives. In the end, perhaps we should focus less on the tools themselves and more on our goals as individuals and as a society. We should form narratives that we believe future generations should adopt. Like, what capabilities do we truly value? What kinds of thinking and creativity do we want to preserve and nurture? And how will we ensure that technology serves our goals rather than undermining them? These are the questions that are going to determine whether AI makes us lazy and dishonest or helps us become more capable, happy, amazing people. Anyway, so thank you for listening to today's episode. If you found it thought-provoking or interesting, please subscribe, share to a friend or a colleague in that Slack channel, and give the episode a review.